Hello everyone, welcome to this session, Introduction to AWS Step Functions. What we are going to study in this particular session. So soon I'm going to give you the overview. What are the pointers we are going to cover as a part of our AWS Step Function. But let me introduce myself before moving forward for this particular training session. So myself, Jatin Goyal, and I'm an AWS authorized instructor. From the certification perspective, I'm holding all these certifications you can see here in this slide. And there is a barcode which you can scan in order to connect me over the LinkedIn. So I am delivering trainings in the AWS from past 2 years, and I have more than 5 years of experience in the corporate training world. So this is about me. As I mentioned, if you want to connect to me, you can anytime connect to me over the LinkedIn. The details are mentioned below on this particular slide. Now, what is the agenda for today's session? What we are targeting in today's session? So we'll start with the overview of AWS step functions. Then we'll talk about benefits of AWS step functions. We will discuss the use cases of AWS step functions, what problems you can solve using AWS step functions, creating a step function state machine that uses Lambda, and starting a state machine execution in response to Amazon S3 event. So these are the pointers which I am going to cover as a part of this training session. The last two pointers, as I have mentioned, those will be a demonstration which I am going to show you in the AWS Management Console so that you can gain a clear understanding how step functions work and how we can integrate different services using step function. Okay. Now, when we start with a step function, basically a word comes into our mind that is orchestration. So step function is an orchestration service. Now, what we are orchestrating, if we have to answer this particular question, like what type of problem this step function is solving or what we want to orchestrate. So we want to orchestrate a business workflow. Okay. Now think from a developer perspective. So I am taking an example of a developer. You can also call developer as a programmer. It's up to you. Okay. So let's understand in a way, I have to design one product. I have to design one software. Now, designing a software or a product can be into different programming languages. You can choose a programming language of your choice. Okay. You can design a product in Java, in Python, in .NET, or whatever language you want. Okay. Now, only designing a product is not the end-to-end solution, or that is not the end result which you are going to achieve. Being a developer, you don't have to write the code only. You also have to make your code that much effective that users who are going to use your application, they will have a better experience, because end goal of any organization, any company, is to provide a better customer experience. Okay. So apart from writing the code, what else developers need to manage? Developers need to manage exception handling. If in short, I will say developers need to manage logging. Logging in the sense, let's say your application, your servers or resources which you are using, they're generating some messages, they're generating some events. So you want to log those messages, you want to log those events in order to get a picture if something will be wrong or if some error will be reported in the production environment. Then you can have certain information on the basis of which you can debug the code, you can debug the flow. Okay. So these are the two major things I have mentioned. But think in a way, if you are working on a workflow or if you are working on a business use case where you have some series of steps you have to drive, where you have some steps in parallel you have to drive, in that case, you will have to handle a lot of other things. You will have to handle the failed task. You will have to maintain that how the tasks are executed in a sequence. Sometimes there will be a need as a part of the exception handling that you will have to manage, try, catch, and finally. These are some blocks which you define as a part of the exception handling. Sometimes you will have to select the data based on the choices you want to make, and sometimes you want to run the task in parallel. Let's take a very simple example to understand this. In order to understand this, you can take a simple example of ATM. Okay, you all use ATM machines to withdraw the cashes or to perform other kinds of transactions. Okay, when you go to ATM machine, there are some series of steps which you perform. Okay, so it's a kind of workflow. It's a workflow which you are driving through the series of steps. Now, those series of steps can have certain pattern, like those series of steps can be executed sequentially, those series of steps can be executed parallelly, or based on the option you are choosing, based on the user driven input we are providing, there can be sometimes we have to make some choices. So basically, step function is helping us out in order to get rid of all these complex task management. We have a workflow orchestration service which is known as a step function. Using this service, what exactly we are doing, we are making all these tasks very simpler, which were complex when developer had to perform that with the help of code, or when developer had to write the end-to-end logic to perform all these tasks. With the help of step function, we can make it easier. And one more advantage, if I have to give you for the step function, I can say that, like in step function, you can get a visibility about a workflow you are executing. So when we work in a particular company, we have a different roles. We can be a part of a development team. There will be a client for which we are working. Okay. The client has also some business users who usually test your application in order to gain an idea that this application will work fine when you will be live in the production environment. Okay. Now think from the business user's perspective. You are a technical user. Okay. So you know how to code. You know how to design that product. You know each line or each piece of statement which you are writing as a part of your program. But what about that business user? Are they that much technical? If they have to gaze a particular insight on one step of your workflow, will they have to read the code, or will they have to understand the logic which you have written? No, that's not going to provide them a good experience. So if we have some visual interface, if we have some flow diagram which is telling us all these things till which particular step we have achieved our business workflow, it's going to add an advantage in the experience of business users. Okay, I hope you have got an idea about it. If you want to know more about step functions, what I will suggest you, you can refer this documentation. There's a very good documentation available in the AWS, which will help you out with the step function. Okay. So you can see this step function is based on a state machines and tasks. So these are to measure attributes of a step functions. Okay. So state machine is a workflow which I was talking about. You're going to orchestrate a business workflow here. And a task is a state in a workflow that represent a single unit of work that another AWS service performs. So each step in a workflow is a state. So these are the two important attributes you need to understand with respect to the step functions. If you have to understand about the use cases, like what are the use cases of step function, you can see here. There are a lot of use cases available with respect to step function. So step function let you build visual workflows that help rapidly translate business requirement into applications. Step function manages state, checkpoints, and restarts for you, and it provides built-in capabilities to automatically deal with errors and exceptions. And these are certain use cases if you want to know about it. You can simply click each one of them, and you can see that these are the use cases available. Like if you will see data processing, so as the volume of the data grows coming from increasingly diverse sources, you need to move quickly to process this data to ensure they make faster, well-informed business decisions. So you can achieve it with the help of step functions. And there are other use cases available too. Even if you will search over the internet like this, use cases of step functions. Let me help you out with this too. If you scroll down, let me open this article. So again, in this article, you can see various use cases of step function. If I scroll down, you can see here. You can use step function for the microservice orchestration, combining Lambda function to build a web-based application. This is one of the use cases they have taken. Combine Lambda function to build a web-based application with a human approval. And there are many use cases you can see here. In terms of security and IT automation, in terms of responding to the operational event in your AWS account. So you can see this architecture diagram. Okay. So there are various architecture diagrams which you can see. So in short, this step function is driving your workflow, it's orchestrating your workflow. If you will see here, like when we are triggering the step function, this step function is performing various tasks with the help of Lambda functions. Okay. What we are going to do now, so I am going to take you through a demonstration which will give you more idea or more clear understanding how step functions work. So let's take you all to the management console. And we all know if we have to search for a particular service, we can simply type the name of the service in the search bar. So let's say I have to search for step functions. So I am typing the name of a service step functions in the search bar, and we will be landing to the step functions page. Okay. If you want to know about step function, you can also read from the console. So you can see here, it's a serverless function orchestrator that makes it easy to sequence AWS Lambda functions and multiple services into business critical applications. Here you can see how it works. So basically, this is a flow diagram which will be designed. And using this flow diagram, we are going to get an idea about a step function. Okay. You can see this here. So this is a workflow studio. I will walk you through the workflow studio. So basically, you can design your workflow either using workflow studio or either by writing a template in Amazon State Language. You have both the options. Okay, you can make use of. If I will scroll down, here you can see the benefits and features. If I have to talk about benefits of the step functions, you can say that the step function can be used for a built-in error handling, for execution of the event history, for automatic scaling, high availability, pay per use, administrative security, and below also they have mentioned some of the use cases. So you can go through this. Okay. Let's start with the demonstration which I am going to show you. So what's a first demonstration I am going to show you? I'm going to show you my first demonstration creating a step function state machine that uses Lambda. Okay, so I am going to create a step function state machine that is going to use a Lambda function, and you will see the result as a part of the execution. Okay, so let me open Lambda console. I will give you a quick overview about Lambda. So we know that Lambda is a serverless computing service, which is making for you easier to run the code without managing the underlying infrastructure because of its serverless nature. Okay, so you don't have the visibility of the underlying infrastructure. You can simply work on your application and the data you want to run. You don't have to take care about the management of the infrastructure part. That will be taken care by the Lambda. Okay. First thing, you have to ensure that as these services are regional service, so you can choose a region of your choice. So this is a drop down. From here, you can choose a specific region in which you want to create this particular demonstration. So I am taking Mumbai as a region for this demonstration. Let me take you to the Lambda function. So I am creating a function. There are several ways by which I can create a function. I'm choosing a way called author from scratch, means I am writing a Lambda function from scratch. You can give a name, whatever you want. I am giving a name called demo state machine. And in order to make it unique, I can provide today's date, which is 10/10/2022. Okay. In the runtime, you can select different runtime you want. So let's say I'm selecting a runtime, Node.js, and I'm selecting a specific version, which is 14.x. Okay. Next thing which you have to maintain, that is a role in a permission. We know that in AWS, if two services has to interact with each other, how we can allow that in a secure way. So IAM role play an important role here. Okay. So basically, here we have to provide the permission for the Lambda. So we will create an execution role. So let's expand this, and you can see there are several options. So for this time, I'm creating a new role with a basic Lambda permission. This thing I'm choosing, and then I'm creating a function. Let me quickly create a function. Okay, and let's wait for the function to be created. In the meantime, I'm going to write a hello world. So I can take this. This is a piece of code. You can get enough references from the internet. Let's say you have to create a hello world Lambda function like this. Let me help you out. Hello world Lambda function node. Okay. And if you will go here, you can open this documentation, building a Lambda function with Node.js. And it will help you out with a piece of code you can refer. Okay. So this thing you can refer. These are some documentation you can see. AWS Lambda function handler in the Node.js. So we know that handler is an entry point, and this is the code you can copy. Okay. So let me take this one. What I'm doing here, I will explain you. Let me take you back to the management console, and here in the function I'm going to create, let me replace the source code. Okay. What exactly I am doing, I have created a handler. We know that handler is an entry point in the Lambda. So whenever the Lambda will be executed, Lambda will always look out for this handler in order to execute the event. And here I'm passing some argument. So event is an input parameter which will be passed by the source event who is going to trigger the Lambda. Okay. And in the result, I am going to pass some input parameter, and then I will print a message hello from event.who. So in this event.who, I'm going to pass a JSON, okay, key value pair, and then we will see the result. Okay, let's deploy this. And now if you have to test the Lambda function, let's first of all test it manually. So go here, create a new event. Let's say demo test event. Okay, if you scroll down, this is a template. You can replace this template with a string you want to pass. So let's say I want to pass a value in who as AWS step functions. Okay. So here who is corresponding to that event.who parameter which you had passed in your response. Okay. So let's save it. And now if you will test this, you will see a result. Hello from AWS step function. Okay. So now what we are going to do, we have tested our Lambda code that either it is executing successfully or not using a test event. Now we will test it with the help of step function. So let's go back to the step functions. Our Lambda function is ready. Okay. In the step function, this is our step function console. If we'll go here, you can go to state machines. Okay. I already have few state machines executed here. So let's get a new one. Let's get a state machine. And these are various ways by which you can create a state machine. You can create a state machine using workflow visually, or you can write a workflow with the help of code, or you can run a sample project. Okay. So what I am going to use, I am going to use the workflow studio in order to design my state machine. If we'll scroll down, these are the types, standard and express. Okay. So you can choose out of these. So if you will see the differences, if you want to decide which one you should choose in order to write your step function, click here, expand this, and it will give you the differences. So you can compare the differences on the basis of various attributes like maximum duration, supported execution state rate, supported state transition rate, and other factors too. Okay. So as per your requirement, you can choose it and you can decide which particular type you want to execute. For this particular demonstration, I am using the standard type. Okay. Go to next. It will open a workflow studio. So it's a drag and drop interface. Basically, using this drag and drop interface, you can design the state machine. Okay. So now I'm going to use this drag and drop interface. So what I have to do, I have to drag and drop the Lambda invoke API into the empty state. So let's take this. I'm dragging it and dropping it here. Okay. So as soon as I will drop it, what will happen? Now we will be able to see the configuration. So this panel is known as inspector panel. Okay. If you want, you can edit the state name or you can keep it as it is. Let's say demo state machine Lambda invoke. Or you can give any name of your choice. Okay, it's up to you. I will keep other options as default in terms of integration type. Here you have to provide a function and name basically, like the Lambda function that you have created. So that you will have to select here. You can expand the drop down and you can search for a Lambda function you have created. You can get a name from here. Let's take a name. Let's provide this name here. Let me enter a function name. So here you can paste the ARN, Amazon resource name. So there are multiple ways. If you can get the function name in the drop down list, you can select it from there. Otherwise, you can enter the function name and you can provide the ARN of that function name. You can see that it's calling, if I will stretch it, it's calling Lambda invoke. And this is my state machine name, which I have given here. Okay. Now, other options I will keep default in terms of payload, and I will go to next from here. Okay, so this is a state machine. If you can see, I can review this state machine. So what this state machine is doing, I am starting and then I am calling the Lambda function. Okay. So if I have to read this particular template, let's read it. See, let me help you out. If I will scroll up, you can see that this is your workflow, and this workflow is written in the Amazon state language. So it's a type of JSON only. Why they have named it as a Amazon state language? Because we are using here certain attributes which are specific to this step function. So the first attribute is comment here, which is giving you a description of a state machine. So here you can write a comment for the better understanding. Okay, I am starting at this particular state. So we know that like state and task were two major attributes in the step function. Okay. So every step we are defining here, that step is representing a state. So I'm starting at this particular state. This state is of type task because here I am going to execute, or here I am going to trigger a Lambda function. Okay. My resource is Lambda invoke. Output path, in the output, I'm going to just take the payload. Okay. And then this is my function name. Okay, I have also taken this retry logic where I have defined the error block. I have defined the maximum attempt backoff rate at interval seconds. Okay, so you can read about attributes of the step function if you want to know more, or if you want to know about different states, you can also read about it. Okay, I can help you out with that. Okay, so let's say I want to check for the attributes of step functions. I can simply type attributes of step functions AWS. Okay, and here if you'll open this developer guide, in this developer guide you can refer various examples. Okay, they have taken a various examples you can refer. Okay, and you will get an idea about different things. If you want to refer it, it's up to you. Okay, but for now what we are going to do, click on next. You can provide a name here. Let me append today's date to make it unique. I will have to provide a permission. So if you don't have any role already existing, you can create a new role, because what you have to do, you have to invoke the Lambda. Okay, you have to invoke the Lambda function. So this step function should have permission to invoke the Lambda. So I am creating a new role. I'm not enabling any logging here, and even I'm not enabling tracing for the X-ray. So X-ray is a service which can be used for debugging purpose. So here I'm not using X-ray for right now. Let me click on create state machine. Okay, as soon as state machine will be created, if you have to test the state machine, you can click on start execution. Okay, you can provide a name here, let's say demo event, something like that, and here you can provide the input. This is the input I'm providing here. Okay, click on start execution. As soon as you will click on start execution, here you can see the execution status. And if you will scroll down in this flow diagram, you can see. So this is a visual workflow. So let's say I'm seeing a green mark here. Green mark here means it executed successfully. Let's select it. You can see the user had passed the input as AWS step function. And what's the output? The output is hello from AWS step function. So what exactly we did in this demonstration? First of all, we tested this demonstration using the Lambda console, and there we used a test section in order to test our Lambda function. Then I invoked my Lambda function using this state machine. I created one state machine in this step function, and then I invoked the Lambda function. So here, this is a input driven state machine. Means user is passing the input, and based on that input, I'm printing the result in the Lambda. Okay, so this is how our step functions work. Now, I want to show you one more demonstration. I hope you have gained some idea from this particular demonstration that how the step function is working. Okay, let's have one more demonstration on the step function. This time, what I am going to do, this time I'm going to integrate my step function with the other services. Let's say I'm going to integrate my step function with the S3, and I'm going to integrate my step function using CloudWatch EventBridge. So as I will start with the demonstration, I can help you out. So this particular tutorial will help you out to configure a state machine as a target for an Amazon event bridge rule. Okay. EventBridge is one of the service which you can use in order to schedule different events. So let's understand a use case. Let's say I have created one S3 bucket which provides us a cost-effective storage option. And now I'm performing one event in the S3 bucket. Let's say put event. Okay. So as soon as there will be put event in the S3 bucket, I want to trigger or I want to invoke this stuff function that we will make it possible with the help of Amazon EventBridge. Okay, seems interesting. Let's start with this particular demonstration. Okay, so what are the prerequisites for this particular demonstration? So prerequisites are we have to have an understanding about how to create a bucket in the S3. We have a basic understanding about how to create rules in the CloudWatch EventBridge that I'm going to show you as a part of this demonstration. Okay, so let me open S3 as one of the console. I can just search for the S3 here. Okay, and I will create one bucket in the S3. Let's create one S3 bucket. Let me create a bucket from scratch. So we know that the name of the S3 bucket should be globally unique. Let's say demo S3 stuff functions. And you can provide a name, let's say EventBridge. And you can append the date to make it more unique. You can append your initials, or if you are working as a part of a company and you have some standards you have to follow, so you can use those standards also in order to name the bucket. Okay, you can also check for the bucket naming conventions. Simply just open an article from here. This is one of the documentation which is helping you out for the bucket naming convention. You can see it from here. Okay, go back. You can choose a region in which you want to create a S3 bucket. So which region we will choose here? As we are executing our demonstration in a Mumbai region, I had chosen the Mumbai region for the stuff function. So let's make it same for the bucket also. Okay. Scroll down. By default, we know that all the public access settings are blocked. Okay. So let's keep it default only and simply click on create bucket. The bucket will be created. Okay. So let's wait for the bucket to be created. And then we will create one state machine, a basic state machine. Okay, let's go back to the stuff functions, and we are going to create a new state machine here. Go to state machine, click on create state machine. Okay, you can define a name. You can first of all choose a authoring method. So again, I'm going to design using the workflow studio. Type you can choose as per your requirement. So for this particular demonstration, I am using standard. Okay, and now it will open a workflow studio for you. So here you can see two panels. We have action panel where you can see the list of services, and here we have a flow panel. So here you can see the flows. Here you can see different types of states, like you can have choices, you can have parallel, you can have map. Means you can basically execute different types of tasks on the basis of choices you are making. The example of ATM which I had given you, so on the basis of choices we are selecting on that particular ATM screen, our next step will be decided. So similar thing is here. Okay, so I'm selecting the flow panel here, and I will drag the past state. So what this past state does actually, this past state basically pass the input to the output. This is what this past state does. Okay, under the configuration we can see this. Okay, let's go to next, and it will create a state machine like this. Okay, let me just provide a comment if you want. I'm saying it's a hello world example of Amazon state language. Okay, or you can type a comment as per your choice. Okay, you can expand it. Next up, what I will do, let me just change the name of the state. You could change it in the Workflow Studio also, or you can edit a template here too. Let me edit a template here this time. Let's do one thing. Let's go back and go to configuration. Let's change the name called hello. Okay. The state type is of pass. And what you can do, you can add more state. Okay. So let me add more state. Let's go to flow. Let's add one more state here. Okay. Go here, give a name, world. Okay. And now, if you will go to next, you can see your template will be formatted like this. This is a template. It will be formatted like this. Okay. You have provided a comment. It is starting at a hello state. Okay. And then you are defining different types of state. You have two states, hello and world. In the hello state, it's of type pass, means it will pass the input to the output without performing any transformation or without performing any extra action. My next state is of world, the name which you had defined. Again, it is of type pass, and here you can define the result. Okay, so I'm defining a result. Let's say I'm saying I want to print this. I want to print world in the result. And it true means you're marking your workflow completed. If there will be no error, you're marking your workflow completed. Okay, so you can create this state machine. Let's go to next. You can give a name. Let's say hello world. You can scroll down and you can keep all other options default and click on create state machine. Okay, it is already existing, so we can correct it. Let's append date and data state machine. Okay, the state machine got created. So we have our bucket, we have our state machine. What's the next step we have to do? Next step is we will basically integrate the events on the basis of which this step function will be executed. This step function will be invoked. Okay, so bucket we have created. Now in the S3 dashboard where you have created a bucket, let's open this bucket. So S3 has a property called event notification. So you have to configure it to send the event to the EventBridge whenever there will be any event which will be happen in the S3 bucket. So we want to perform on the basis of put event. So scroll down in the property section. So under property section, you will see this event notification. So you can see that here's a section called Amazon EventBridge. So for additional capabilities, use Amazon EventBridge to build event-driven application at scale using S3 event notification. So I am going to make use of this Amazon EventBridge. So what I will do, add it, click on, and save the changes. Okay. Now if you scroll down, here in the event notification, you can see here. Okay. Now what is the next thing we will do? We will go to the event bridge. So we are going to create an event bridge rule. Okay. So we'll navigate to the Amazon event bridge console. You can simply type Amazon event bridge here. And you will be navigated to event bridge console. So this is my Amazon event bridge console. Here I'm going to create a rule. Okay. Let's create a rule. From here, you can see all the rules if you have created. Let's create a new rule. I'm going to give a name. Let's say the name is S3 stuff functions. You can provide a description if you want. You can say that executing a state machine on the basis of event in S3. Okay, that you can mention. Here we will keep all the selections as default on this particular page, and we will Go to next. Okay. So here you can see in the event source, what you have to do. You have to keep the selection as default AWS event or EventBridge partner event. So event sent from the AWS services or EventBridge patterns. So this is something simple. I'm not choosing this sample. In the event pattern section, what I will do, I will select a service. Let's say I'm selecting simple storage service here. What type of event? You can basically select all the event, okay? Or you can choose the event notification. So here, let's choose the Amazon S3 event notification. And if you will scroll down, again, it will ask any event or specific event, okay? So my requirement is I want to execute on the basis of a specific operation, that is object created. When there will be an object created in the S3, I want to execute the step function. Okay. And then here you can provide a specific bucket by name. So provide a name of the bucket which you have created. From where you can see the name of the S3 bucket. Go to the S3 dashboard. And in the S3 dashboard, you can easily see the bucket name. Let's take this bucket. Let's take this one. Let's go back here and set the bucket. Okay. You have to go to next. Here you have a target option. So in the target option, you have to ensure that AWS service is selected. In this drop down, you can search for the step function state machine. I will select this one. Here you can define a state machine. Okay. So let me take this one, which I had created. My state machine, hello world. Let's go back here. And this is the one which I had created. From the drop down, you can get it. If you will not be able to see the state machine you had created in the drop down, you can always use this refresh icon. Okay, this refresh icon will be helping you out in order to populate all the state machines you had created in this drop down. Okay, then we will keep everything default and we'll go to next. I don't want to add any tags. You know that tagging is a strategy which you can use in the AWS to manage or filter your resources easily. Okay. So it's one of the good strategy which you can follow. You can use it to search and filter your resources or track the AWS cost. But here I'm not applying any tag. Let's go to next. You can review whatever you have done here in terms of event pattern, in terms of target, and then you can click on create rule. Okay. Now, if you have to test the rule, how you can test it? Let's test it. In order to test this rule, we'll go to S3 and let's upload something to S3. Open this S3. Click on upload. Okay. You can upload any file here in the S3. Let's say I'm downloading one image, AWS icon, something like that. Let me go to images. I can save one of the image. Let's say AWS icon.png. Let's save it. And now you can simply do a drag and drop or you can browse it. Let me do a drag and drop here in the S3 console. And I can click on upload. So now I have performed one event in the S3. I have created one object in the S3. So my state machine should be triggered. How we can verify that? Go to your step functions. This is a state machine. Let's open this one. In the execution history, you can see there is one execution which got performed. If you will open this execution, you can see this graph inspector. So this state machine got executed. If we'll go to world, if you'll see the output is a world here. And also you can see what was the input, what was the execution input. So this was my execution input, a JSON document. And here you can see this is an object, AWS icon.png. So when I uploaded this AWS icon.png in the S3 bucket, using that rule which I had configured in the CloudWatch event bridge, my state machine got executed. Okay. So here we are orchestrating our workflow. So this is the meaning of orchestration with the help of step functions. Hope you have gained something from this particular session. Wish you all the best, and you can learn more about AWS step functions by referring various documentation. Thank you, everyone.